Hello, brothers and sisters. How are you today? And thank you so much for tuning in to Readings with Regina. And in these episodes, I am not the star. The books, let me show you them again. The books are the star of this program because if you want to get smarter, if you want your children to be smarter, if you want the future to be greater, then you must read. And in this racist country, Black history is not something that is normally taught truthfully. So it is incumbent upon you all who are listening to me, if you have children, or if you just want to learn yourself, then you must teach yourself. Do not depend on mainstream, junior high, high school, colleges, and universities, even. Yo, to give you the 411 on Black history. That can only be done through us teaching us. And when you know your past, then you can create a better future for yourself and your people. All right, here we go. Let me get to, first of all, let me put up a banner. Okay. Celebrate your heroes. And I'm going to talk about some of them during this show. Okay. Now, let me get to the books. I don't know why I can't find the book I'm looking for. Ah, here it is. The Slave Ship. And let me just explain to you again why I'm using this book, because this is the book that transported the original Africans, Igbo, Mandingo, Dan, into the New World. All these different African ethnicities were aboard the slave ship and they were transported to what was called the New World. But it wasn't that new. Indigenous people had been here for thousands of years. But nevertheless, when white people, okay, engage in stealing territory, yes, they will rename everything. So we're going to start with The Slave Ship by Marcus Rediker. Marcus Rediker did us a great favor, my people. Yes, by studying the ship's logs of enslavers, okay? Now, we're dealing with Captain Anthony Fox, A Slave Ship's Crew, 1748. Here we go. Captain Fox also recorded complexion, probably in order to identify runaways should he need to do so at some point in the voyage. As it happened, the captain had only two categories for complexion: brown and black. Most people were brown, including the captain himself. Those he considered black included Robert Murray of Scotland, Peter Dumfries of Ireland, Parato Bartholomew of Genoa, and the African John Goodboy. Now, the brown and black, let me just add that. First of all, these are sailors. They in the ship, they in the sun. Also, the English had a problem with Ireland. The English had a problem with Scotland. The English are Europeans. All right. So anybody that's not English or the same religion, they got a problem with. So that's one way to look at this. Another way to look at this too is what I just said about these people are sailors. They are exposed to the sun like you would not believe. So they would get a hint of color. But the true African on board this slave ship was John Goodboy. And the fact that he is John Goodboy, that tells you that he was enslaved by somebody. Okay, and this is 1748. John Goodboy, the actual African, is a part of the slave ship's crew. Here we go. The division of labor on Fox Guineamen, I've already told you about Guineamen. I can't get over how often they used it, would have been similar to what prevailed on an 18th century deep sea sailing ships with a few special features. A typical slave ship had a captain, a first and second mate, a doctor, a carpenter, a boatswain, a gunner or armorer, often a cooper, a barrel maker, a cook, 10 to 12 seamen, a handful of landsmen, and one or two ship's boys. Larger ships would have a third and even a fourth mate, mates for the doctor and the various skilled workers, especially the carpenter and gunner, and a few more seamen and landsmen. The unusual aspects were the number of mates, the necessity of a doctor, and the number of sailors and landsmen. These additional members of the crew reflected the special dangers of the slave trade, the need for larger numbers of people to guard the slaves and to withstand the mortality of the African coast and Middle Passage. The division of labor allocated responsibilities and structured working relations among the crew, forming a hierarchy of laboring roles and a corresponding scale of wages. A slave ship, like a man of war, required a wide variety of skills. It was too big and unmanageable a machine to be run by novices. The organization of labor on the slave ship began with the captain, the first person hired and the last to be discharged by the ship owner at voyage's end. You see, there would be merchants, wealthy, that would put together the scheme of a slave ship. The captain, though, he's the head man in charge. He makes all the decisions on and about the slave ship. His charge was to manage the navigation and everything relating to the ship's cargo, voyage, sailors, etc. He hired the crew, procured the ship's provisions, oversaw the loading of the original cargo, and conducted all the business of the voyage, from the buying of the slaves in Africa to their sale in the Americas. All of this is on the captain. He saw to the navigation of the vessel, tended the compasses, and gave the working orders. On the smaller ships, he ran one of the two watches. He was the monarch of his wooden world. Dig that. Wooden world. Because the slave ship was its own world within itself. He possessed near absolute authority, and he used it however he saw fit to maintain social order aboard the ship. I'm going to stop reading from the slave ship right now. And I just want to say, before I go to the next book, the slave ship was its own world. And it shows you the economic depravity of the merchants who invented this business. Understand, this was a business enterprise that was financed by wealthy white money, and it created a whole industry. And as I said in a previous program, it enhanced the Navy in the Americas. All right. My next book is Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Why this book is so important has to do with the fact that Linda Brent is an actual enslaved woman, and she was a house slave. But the enslavement of Black people was so horrific, okay, that she ran away. All right, she came up with a scheme to run away from her pedophile, that dog, Dr. Flint, owner, okay, who sent her to his son. But nevertheless, I'm going to concentrate now on her running away. So this is what happened to Linda Brent when she ran away. Okay, where am I? I was daily hoping to hear that my master had sold my children, for I knew who was on the watch to buy them. But Dr. Flint cared even more for revenge than he did for money. My brother William and the good aunt who had served in his family 20 years, and my little Benny and Ellen, who was a little over 2 years old, were thrust into jail. They put her children in jail. This isn't funny. These people put her children in jail because she ran away. Lord have mercy. Can you imagine a 2-year-old in jail? Okay, here we go. My brother William and the good aunt who had served in his family for 20 years, and my little Benny and Ellen, who was a little over 2 years old, were thrust into jail as a means of compelling my relatives to give some information about me. He swore my grandmother should never see one of them again till I was brought back. They kept these facts from me for several days. When I heard that my little ones were in a loathsome jail, my first impulse was to go to them. I was encountering dangers for the sake of freeing them. And must I be the cause of their death? Oh, the thought was agonizing. My benefactors tried to soothe me by telling me that my aunt would take good care of the children while they remained in jail. They put her children in jail. Oh, but it added to my pain to think that the good old aunt, who had always been so kind to her sister's orphan children, should be shut up in prison for no other crime than loving them. I suppose my friends feared a reckless movement on my part, knowing as they did that my life was bound up in my children. I received a note from my brother William. It was scarcely legible and ran like this, quote, "Wherever you are, dear sister, I beg of you not to come here. We are all much better off than you are. If you come, you will ruin us all. They would force you to tell where you had been, or they would kill you. Take the advice of your friends, if not for the sake of me and your children, at least for the sake of those you would ruin." End of quote. Poor William. He also must suffer for being my brother. I took his advice and kept quiet. My aunt was taken out of jail at the end of the month. Those children were kept in jail for a month because Mrs. Flint, that is the wife of the pedophile husband who owned Linda. Mrs. Flint could not spare her any longer. She was tired of being her own housekeeper. See, the white woman didn't have to clean. During slavery, a black woman cleaned for free for her. Okay. It was quite too fatiguing to order her dinner and eat it too. My children remained in jail, where Brother William did all he could for their comfort. Betty went to see them sometimes and brought me tidings. She was not permitted to enter the jail, but William would hold them up to the grated window while she chatted with them. When she repeated their prattle and told me how they wanted to see their ma, my tears would flow. Old Betty would exclaim, "Lord's child, what you crying about? Them young'uns will kill you dead. Don't be so chicken-hearted. If you does, you will never get through this world." Good old soul. She had gone through the world childless. She had never had little ones to clasp their arms around her neck. She had never seen their soft eyes looking into hers. No sweet little voices that called her mother. She had never pressed her own infants to her heart with the feeling that even in fetters there was something to live for. How could she realize my feelings? Betty's husband loved children dearly and wondered why God had denied them to him. He expressed great sorrow when he came to Betty with the tidings that Ellen had been taken out of jail and carried to Dr. Flint's. She had the measles a short time before they carried her to jail, and the disease had left her eyes affected. The doctor had taken her home to attend to them. My children had always been afraid of the doctor, as the pedophile. Yes, my children had always been afraid of the doctor and his wife. These were terrible white people. They had never been inside of their house. Poor little Ellen cried all day to be carried back to prison. Oh, the little girl wanted to go back to prison and be in the white enslaver's house. Hear me, good people. The instincts of childhood are true. She knew she was loved in the jail. Her aunt was there. That they were, I can't even explain this. Her screams and sobs annoyed Mrs. Flint. Before night, she called one of the slaves and said, "Here, Bill, carry this brat back to the jail. I can't stand her noise. If she would be quiet, I should like to keep the little minx. She would make a handy waiting maid for my daughter by and by." See, oh, little children were slaves to bigger children. Little children were slaves to bigger children. So you were enslaved even if you were a child and white. But if she stayed here with her white face, I suppose I should either kill her or spoil her. By the way, these children are biracial. I hope the doctor will sell them as far as wind and water can carry them. Now, this is the wife. As for their mother, her ladyship will find out yet what she gets by running away. She hasn't so much feeling for her children as a cow has for its calf. If she had, she would have come back long ago to get them out of jail and save all this expense and trouble. That good for nothing hussy. When she is caught, she shall stay in jail in irons for 6 months and then be sold to a sugar plantation, Haiti, in irons for 6 months. I shall see her broke in. Understand what that means, people. Those of you who have been with me for a while, you know what it means to break a slave. They want you docile. They want you shuffling. They want you, yes sir, no sir, yes sir, no sir. That's being broken in. That's being broken in. Those are the kind of black people that they push, that they like, the ones that have been stripped of their humanity and have become subservient to their white master and mistress. All right. Okay, sugar. I'm gonna read that again. I shall see her broke in yet. What do you stand there for, Bill? Because she's talking to one of her slaves. Why don't you go off with that brat? Mind you, now that you don't let any of the niggers speak to her in the street. Now listen to this. Don't let any of the niggers, now this is a white woman. That's where that word comes from. Now, I'm not saying that I've never used it. I'm not saying that I don't every now and then use it now. But you all need to think about that word. That word did not come from loving people. That word came from people who hated your guts, who felt that you were their dog, you were their slave. So this white woman, Mrs. Flint, an enslaver, is telling her slave Bill, don't you let any other niggas speak to her in the street. Don't let any other niggas speak to her in the street. Lord have mercy. All right. That's Linda Brent. That's Harriet Jacobs. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Ida B. Wells. And let me say a few words about my dear sister, Ida B. Wells. Now, Ida was born just after slavery. That's very important. So her parents, I don't know how they did it, but they taught dear Ida how to read and write. Ida, as she grew older in her 20s, late teens and 20s, became the first investigative reporter of the lynchings of Black men. Before her reports in the media, The media of that time, the 19th century, were lying about why they lynched black men. They said that these men were being lynched because they raped white women. That was a lie, but that is what was printed in the media, to the point that Ida even believed it until three of her industrious friends were lynched for being good businessmen. And white men got jealous and killed them. And if you think any of them white terrorists went to jail, think again. You could kill, you could stomp, you could rape, you could do whatever you wanted to do to black people under enslavement. And I'm talking not just about adults, I'm talking about children. Because the previous book that I read to you, Linda Brent's owner, was a pedophile. He was in his late 40s when he got her, and she was about 10 to 12 years old. Oh, so understand your history, Black people. That's important for you to know, okay? Because we have to build a better future for ourselves and our children. So, once again, let me show you the book, Ida. I just adore her. Now, the section that I'm going to read to you, now she's a newspaper woman. She had just visited Frederick Douglass. Now, those of you who've been with me, you know I read The Narrative of Frederick Douglass, which is a great book. But check this out. In this passage from Ida, you're going to see another side of Frederick Douglass. Here we go. As a guest in his home many times afterward, she's talking about being a guest in Frederick Douglass's home. Having a chance to know him and his lovely wife, Helen Pitts Douglass, my admiration and love for him deepened and strengthened. I felt then and now that he is the biggest and broadest American our country has ever produced. He and his wife suffered criticism from another angle of the color question. He, a colored man, and she, a white woman, had loved each other and married so that they might live together in the holy bonds of matrimony rather than in the illicit relationship that was the cause of so many lynchings. I had noted and protested against. The friendship and hospitality I enjoyed at the hands of these two great souls is among my treasured memories. After my first visit to his home, as Mr. Douglass was driving me to the train on which I was to return to my work on the Age, that's the New York Age, a newspaper, in New York, he said something which gave me an insight into still another aspect of this color question. After saying that my visit had given him pleasure and he hoped I would come again soon, he said, quote, I want to tell you that you are the only colored woman, save Mrs. Grimke, a black free woman, who has come into my home as a guest and has treated Helen as a hostess, has a right to be treated by her guests. Each of the others, to my sorrow, acted as if she expected my wife to be haughty or distant, and they all began by being so themselves. Oh. But why? I asked in my youth and inexperience. Well, they seemed to resent her being at the head of my household and felt that they should show her their feelings. Many of them were cordial to me, but kept Helen outside the pale simply because she was white and had committed the crime of marrying me. In other words, said he, as many of her white friends had resented her marrying me, so my colored friends showed their resentment even in our home. And you tell me they had the bad taste and worse manners to come into Helen Douglass's home and act so boorishly? Ida said. Oh, Mr. Douglass, I am so sorry to hear that the women of my race committed such a breach of good manners. You know, Ida is very keen on morality and good manners. Well, my dear, said Fred, I am not criticizing them. I am only trying to tell you why we enjoyed your company so much and want you to come again. Helen appreciated the courtesy and deference with which you treated her and the way you tried to influence Annie to do the same. Annie Sprague was Mr. Douglas's granddaughter who lived with them. See, Douglas had two wives. Now, the sister that he was married to that had helped him escape and everything, she died. So he remarried, and he remarried a white woman. Boom, here it is. So his granddaughter probably had problems with him marrying a white woman too. Yes. Now here we go. I wish, where am I? Yeah. But Mr. Douglas, but Mrs. Douglas was my hostess. This is Ida, and more than old enough to be my mother. I certainly deserve no credit for what I have been taught is ordinary good manners. The fact that Mrs. Douglas is white had nothing to do with it, I said. I only wish everyone thought and acted as you do, my dear, said Mr. Douglas. The conversation gave me an insight into the situation that continued until death closed the chapter for them. I too would have preferred that Mr. Douglas had chosen one of the beautiful, charming, colored women of my race for his second wife. But he loved Helen Pitts and married her. And it was outrageous that they should be crucified by both white and black people for so doing. The more I saw of them, the more I admired them, both for the patient, uncomplaining way they met the sneers and discourtesies, I can only imagine, heaped upon them, especially Mrs. Douglas, who lived for some years after her distinguished husband passed on. Oh my gracious. What can I tell? This is really something to think about. It was a big deal with Frederick Douglass because he was already famous when he, for his second wife, married a white woman. Okay. But Ida was saying, look, I'm going to be nice to her. I'm in her house. She's my hostess. But obviously, other sisters were like, oh, we ain't down with her. You should have married a black woman. I'm not even going to comment on that anymore, but I did want to point it out because it is something that we are still dealing with today. But just to be fair, you can understand how sisters felt because sisters, boom, have been relegated to the bottom heap of beauty. The white woman was the standard of beauty. Then, and in many cases, even now, black women imitate white women. But I'm not going to go into that because I have to read to you Assata, and I don't want to get off the point. But I did want to show you that this was a problem even during the so-called end of enslavement of black people in this country. So, Assata, here we go. Oh my goodness, it's almost time for me to leave y'all. Okay. And I got to talk to y'all about some other stuff. All right, let me get to reading Assata. Where am I? Okay. When Eva came to the workhouse, it was something of an event. Usually, she occupied the cell I was in. The rest of the women were housed in two open dormitories. The guards didn't know what to do with her. She had been in that jail many times before, and she was known as a Hellraiser. Everybody said she was crazy. My first encounter with Eva was when she came over to the bars and sat down outside my cell and told me she could astro travel. She called it something like astro space projection. I can go anywhere I want to, whenever I want to, she told me. I just come from Jupiter. How was it? I asked her. Oh, it was fine. They had these cute little people. They were purple with crocodile skin and blue hair. You can go anywhere you want to, she told me. You just have to project yourself. Can you show me how to project myself the hell out of here? Oh, that's easy, she said. I do that all the time. As a matter of fact, I'm not here now. No, I said, that's not good enough. I want to project my mind and my body out of here. You'll be in jail wherever you go, Eva said. You have a point there, I told her, but I'd rather be in a minimum security prison or on the streets than in the maximum security prison here. The only difference between here and the streets is that one is maximum security and the other is minimum security. The police patrols are in our community just like the guards patrol here. I'm going to read this again. The police patrol our communities just like the guards patrol here. The police patrol our communities just like the guards do here. Now, why would I read that repeatedly? Because I want you all to remember how the patrol force started in this country. It started in the enslavement period when the white men would go after runaway enslaved people. Hello, that sentiment, like all energy, has not dissolved. This is why you will still have today police beatings of Black people, police jailings of Black people. We're not even the full population of this country. We only a percentage of this country. Yet when you go to the jails today, you will see mostly Black people. Yes. So what does that tell you? What? Were Black people just inherently bad? No. No, it means that many of the attitudes, many of the sentiments, many of the belief systems that were drummed into white and Black people during slavery still exist today. Now, I put this up. You see the brother right here? That's little Bobby Hutton. He was killed during this month. He was the first Panther in Oakland, California to be gunned down. The baby boy was only 18. He's an ancestor now. He's what Julia Wright, the great writer, would call a baby ancestor, even though he was a teenager. A teenager is a baby to me. Now, to the left of little Bobby Hutton, or is it the right? I never get him right. In any event, is Mumia Abu Jamal. Let me put up another banner. I got to put up another banner for this brother. Okay. Mobilization for Mumia. Mumia has been enslaved in jail for 44 years, people. Mumia is 71. He'll be 71, I think, on the 24th of this month. It is a crime against humanity to keep an elder in jail. Mumia Abu Jamal was the kind of Black man that did not bend. He is my Panther brother. Okay? He wrote honestly about the MOVE organization and the racism in this country. Mobilization for Mumia. That's the website I want you all to go to see all of the wonderful events that we have planned for his birthday. Mumia should be free. Kamal Siddiqui, who's directly related to Sister Assata, should be free. These brothers are political prisoners. And that's why I put up the banner that says, Black people celebrate your heroes. These brothers were heroic. This is why the mainstream media would never write about them fairly. And this is one of the reasons that I do readings with Regina. I want you to know your true heroes. I want you to make a connection with them. I want you to teach them to your children. And I want you to come together with other organizations to make sure that these brothers get out of jail. What are you doing in jail and you're 71 years old or older? Think about that, my people. Each one, teach one, help one. Stand with your heroes. Stand with your people. Love your people. Understand their shortcomings. Love them anyway and help them. But right now, April is the month of little Bobby Hutton, my Panther brother, and Mumia Abu Jamal, my other Panther brother. Bobby Hutton is dead. He's an ancestor. Mumia Abu Jamal, in his brilliance, is very much alive. All right. When I come together with you next week, next Tuesday, I'm going to show you more of his books. He's written many. The man is brilliant. He should be on the streets. And how's he going to get on the street? If we all get together and make sure Mumia gets free. All right, brothers and sisters. I absolutely love you dearly. I pray for you every night and every day. Okay? Do the same for me, and I will see you next week, same time, same place. Take good care. Bye now.